As the county council race comes down to the last few weeks, it's time to get serious about what we're looking for in a candidate. After all, the next councilman from District 5 will face a $1.3 billion budget and a debt that is $1.4 billion and rising. County government has made many promises to pensioners and to people that it must keep. It will take someone who has budget experience, wisdom, diplomacy, and determination. In order to protect the fiscal integrity of the county, it will take someone who has the ability to say no to overspending, say no to overregulation, and say no to special interests. Competence, integrity, experience, responsibility, dependability, honesty. These are the practical qualities that determine a qualified candidate. For my part, I have successfully run a business in Anne Arundel County for the last 27 years. I've been a practicing attorney and a member of the local bar association for over 30 years with an unblemished record. In running companies, administering budgets, and making decisions which have affected the 40 families whose breadwinners we have employed, I have had to make tough decisions and had to learn to say no to wasteful spending and to wasteful policies. So when necessary, I know how to say no. Let me ask you, is this true of my opponent, Patrick Armstrong? Has Patrick Armstrong demonstrated that he knows how to say no? Last Thursday night, in a debate sponsored by a union, which is a classic example of a special interest, we, the candidates, were asked repeatedly if we would grant the union certain favors and favored treatment from the public treasury. Now, during that entire debate, my opponent, Patrick Armstrong, never said no. On the contrary, he said he would do whatever it takes to satisfy the wants and the desires of the union. He made guarantees that, if elected, he would increase their salaries and their benefits and their funding for equipment and facilities they desire. He made the same wild promises to police and teacher unions. He never said no. He said yes and yes and yes to spending your money. This is because he shares the dangerous Democrat tendency to promise anything to get elected. Is this wise? Does this demonstrate accountability? Well, I don't think so. Patrick Armstrong is not going to be careful with your tax money, and he is telling you this in advance. My opponent has spent this entire campaign in name-calling mode. He's tried to smear me as an extremist and claim that you should vote for him because my philosophy of government, which, by the way, is the philosophy of the founders of Maryland and of these United States, is somehow out of touch. Well, let's stop the name-calling and let's do some truth-telling. Fact. During the debate, Patrick Armstrong was asked a question about his own record of safety on the public highways. He said that he had only had one speeding ticket in the last 2 years. Let me tell you the truth about Patrick Armstrong's reckless, negligent, irresponsible approach to public safety. On May 29, 2012, Patrick Armstrong was charged and subsequently convicted of driving 80 miles per hour in a 55 zone. On May 3, 2013, Patrick Armstrong was charged and subsequently convicted of driving 79 miles per hour in a 55 zone. A few months later, on July 18, 2013, he was charged with and subsequently convicted of driving 73 miles per hour in a 55 zone. And on July 21, 2014, Patrick Armstrong, after already becoming the Democrat nominee, was charged and subsequently convicted of driving 83 miles per hour in a 55 zone. And on that same date, Patrick Armstrong was charged and subsequently convicted of exceeding the maximum posted speed on a bridge, which is a separate offense and a separate fine and a separate conviction. This is Patrick Armstrong. Competence? No. Experience? Hardly. Responsibility? Maturity? Certainly not. Honesty? Well, you decide. Because I think this is more than a simple driving mistake. This is a pattern of irresponsible, immature behavior. And I have to ask you, are you going to vote for a habitual lawbreaker to be your next lawmaker? Please consider that carefully. Folks, I just turned 62 years of age. I've decided to try to give back and try to serve my county at this stage of my life. I have absolutely no intention of running again. So I humbly ask you to consider the contrast in character and qualifications between Patrick Armstrong and Michael Anthony Peroutka. And I respectfully ask for your vote on November 4th. And I thank you.
This message was produced by authority of Friends of Michael Anthony Peroutka, Thomas A. Pavlinick, Esquire, Treasurer.